Hey y'all, and welcome back to Leonard Creek Farm. Guys, it is a wet, rainy day here on the farm here in Appalachia. And so we can't do much outside. I've tried to get a little bit of work done, but it's just so wet that it's making everything just difficult. And so today I thought that it would be a good idea to talk about when to breed rabbits and why. And also how we do it. We breed rabbits a little bit different here on our farm. It's not as conventional, I guess is what you would say. It's not like a commercial farm where you breed rabbits, kind of back to back. But we'll get into that. We'll get into the reason why we don't. And we'll get into kind of what age and just all the things that has to do with breeding rabbits. So like I said, if you're new here, we breed and raise, or have bred and raised, New Zealand's, Flemish Giant, and New Zealand and Flemish Giant crosses. Along with, if you notice here, we do have some new additions to the farm recently that are mini Rexes. We have been breeding and selling and raising rabbits for 4 years. The main thing when it comes to breeding rabbits is you don't want to breed too early. A lot of people think because you can do it, you should do it. The reason is they're just not mature enough. So here on our farm, we do not breed rabbits, does before the age of 6 months. There's other homesteaders that I've heard talking about breeding does a little bit younger, that you can get a larger amount of, you can get bigger size litters, and they prefer it that way. But at what expense are you willing to get a bigger size litter? For me personally, breeding a doe under 6 months of age is just not an option, because I'm not willing to put more effort in than I should have to. I'm also not willing to jeopardize the health, the growth of my doe, along with having issues with her just being a bad mom, when maybe if I would have bred her a little bit later, we wouldn't have had bad mom issues. And I'll give you an example of my own experience. I had sold a doe local, and these people were anxious to start a homestead, and they ended up buying a bunch of rabbits, not really knowing what they had, not really knowing the ages, not really keeping track of anything. And I had seen on our local Facebook site that they were posting that they had like over 120 baby rabbits. So I guess they just bought a bunch of does and then just had bucks cover the does. And they had all different kinds of breeds, all different kinds of mixes. I had sold them a doe at 8 weeks old. And she, the lady that I sold her to, she messaged me about 2 months later, and she said, "Is this doe a bad mom or not? I can't figure out what's going on. She's already had 3 litters. Her first 2 litters were stillborns, and this litter she's not taking care of her babies." So by this point, the doe was being bred and bred and bred, and just turned around and rebred every time that she had deceased babies, underdeveloped babies, and she wasn't even to the age where she should have even been bred. And she was well aware that the doe was young. Later on, after she had that third bunch of kits, at 3 months of age, they decided they didn't want her anymore. And they posted a picture of her. And when I seen the picture of her, she was the same size that she was when she left our farm. She hadn't grown any. And this is a Flemish Giant New Zealand cross. You know, by the time I breed my does, they're this big. They're, you know, they're large. They're full grown. If not all the way full grown, pretty close to over half full grown. And she looks pitiful. And so that's an example that you need to be sure that you're being very careful about the age that you breed your does at, because you can ruin a good doe, you can ruin a good bred doe, you can ruin a good doe in general with just breeding too early. All right, guys, so that brings me to my second point. How much should you breed a doe? How many times should a doe be bred a year? How many kits should she take care of in a year? So we do things a little bit different on our farm. If you've watched our previous videos talking about breeding rabbits, you know that I only breed a doe a few times a year. Typically, my does will have about 3 litters a year, and I do not breed back to back. When I mean back to back, I wait until the does have completely weaned their kits before they are bred. That's not a typical practice when it comes to people raising commercially or for homesteads for meat. Typically, they're going to breed a doe. She's going to have her kits. At about 4 weeks, when the kits are about 4 weeks, they're going to breed their doe back. And she will wean her kits, and soon after she weans her kits, she'll have a very short rest period, and then she'll kit again. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to do things. I just feel I like to give my does a longer rest time. I like to give them a longer rest period, and I like to give them long breaks for 2 reasons. The first reason being just that I mean, they need rest and breaks too. I like my does to be fat, not overweight, but plump before they go into the next breeding. I like them to be able to have all of their weight back before they go into their next breeding and having to feed and care for kits. The second reason is I don't want to have a bunch of bunnies. Just because they can have a bunch of litters doesn't mean that they should have a bunch of litters, and doesn't mean that I want to have to feed or care for a bunch of litters. And that might sound really lazy, and maybe in some sense it is lazy. But I have a whole homestead that I have to take care of, and having to have, let me see, how many does do I have in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 does. If all 6 does are pregnant every 6 weeks, and having kits every 6 weeks, and they're having 8 to 12 kits each litter, that is a lot to manage. That's a lot of does that you're going to have to feed, on top of kits that you're going to have to feed, on top of trying to figure out where they all go and where to store them. And if you don't have just an unlimited amount of resources or money to provide a bunch of cages for those rabbits, what are you going to do? You can't leave babies in there with their moms forever. You can't leave does and bucks together forever. And so you're just kind of stuck. And so I like to keep my does just bred a few times a year. A lot of times I don't breed them all at the same time. Sporadically having babies. That way I can manage them financially. That we can manage them with the amount of resources we have. I don't have a limited amount of cages, and I don't have an unlimited amount of money to feed the rabbits. I like the amount of rabbits we have now because it's a very manageable amount. Nobody talks about in the homesteading world how expensive it is actually to feed the grow outs to getting them into the freezer. And maybe one day I'll make a video about that. But it's not cheap to feed grow outs. It's just not. Is it super expensive? Absolutely not. Is it a super simple way to grow your own food? Yes, absolutely. But it's not free, and it's not cheap if you're feeding pellets, store-bought pellets like we are. All right, guys. So like all of my educational videos, it's based off of experience and opinion. We don't have to agree on everything. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say most people would disagree with me when it comes to breeding rabbits. And that's perfectly okay. We do what is best for us here on the farm. And that's, you know, that's okay. You do what's best for you on your farm. If your goal is to fill your freezer with rabbits, then you're probably going to want to breed a little bit more than what I would like to breed. If you have the time and are financially able and have the resources to have, you know, a couple hundred rabbits a year, then that's fantastic. That's great. I'm happy for you in that, and I hope that you continue to succeed in your goal of your rabbit farming. That's fantastic. This is a little bonus point here that I just kind of want to add. We don't save back many rabbits. We mostly sell, and we save back breeders, and we save back grow outs. The grow outs that we save back are the rabbits that did not sell. So mostly it's bucks. As of now, the grow outs that I have five rabbits. One of them is a doe that I'm keeping back for breeding. The other 4 are bucks. And so, like I said, my goal is not to completely fill the freezer full of rabbit. But my goal is to make an income on the homestead while loving what I'm doing, but making it a financially stable income, along with not having to put as much sources out to provide for the animal. And so that's why I do it the way I do, because I don't have the finances or the resources to put a bunch of money out throughout the year. Rabbits are, in my opinion, one of the cheaper routes to go when it comes to raising food for your homestead, and I'm a big advocate of raising rabbits for your homestead. But anything can be as cheap or as expensive as you make it. And so we keep it to a budget-friendly level. If you are just looking for a low-maintenance way of keeping rabbits on the homestead, either for food sources or for resale, then I would recommend this, especially if you have limited resources and you're not really wanting to put a bunch of effort into keeping your rabbits. I hope this video was helpful. I want to do my best to just kind of help others. You know, when it comes to things like this, I say it all the time. When you're talking about livestock, it can be as expensive or as cheap as you make it. And so if you're wanting to have a cheaper livestock that puts food on the table, then rabbits is the way to go. And if you're wanting to bring in, you know, a small income to provide for your rabbits, then they're definitely that on the homestead. But I appreciate y'all watching. I appreciate y'all hanging out, and hopefully we can see you on the next one. We'll see you later. Bye.